On today's show, the guys ask the question, how much is too much when it comes to prepping the classroom for projects? We've got the East Initiative update and more. That's up next on EduTechGuys. EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on this site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.
Hello and welcome to EduTechGuys Radio. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, David Henderson.
Hey, and I'm Jeff Madlock.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. Yeah, today we're going to talk about how much is too much preparation. Specifically, we're talking about classroom projects, but
maker spaces.
I think we're going to end up delving into some other areas.
We're going to find a way to tick somebody off.
That's pretty much the primary goal.
I think so. Also, new today, the second run today, the East Initiative update, special announcement for the 27th.
Awesome.
We'll be listening to it, and we're kind of replacing our Artist of the Week for now with the East Initiative update of the week. So
that's cool.
That's pretty cool. Hey, don't forget, you can check us out on the web at www.edutechguys.com. You can also find us at Twitter, Facebook. Heck, just go out to Google. I say this every week. Type in the EduTech Guys, and doggone if Smiley and Happy don't show up there on your Google search page.
I am your father.
What does that have to do with Smiley and Happy?
Oh, sorry. I got off track.
Weird you are. Anyway, so I threw that in there. But no, really, check us out on social media. Lots of stuff out there. You can also find us at SoundCloud.com. SoundCloud.com, providing the EduTech Guys for 8 months. So you can check us out there, and SoundCloud.com/EduTechGuys. Good times. Lots of stuff coming up on the show today. We won't keep you too long, but we will make you happy, because this is some EdTech goodness right here, people.
That's right. We're either going to make you happy or tick you off. I mean, that's ultimately
our primary goal is to tick you off.
Well, making you happy is secondary.
So
the whole premise, how much is too much prep, actually came it came on the heels of a question that I put out to Twitter and Facebook yesterday, in terms of the day we're recording this, and I put this out there and said essentially that if you are providing your students with prefab kits, everything's in the kit, and you throw it down on the table and say, there you go, kids, put it together, that's not a makerspace. That's an assembly line.
It's assembly line.
I mean, so that was the premise that I put out there. That was the charge, the challenge, the whatever. Right. The goal was to open up discussion about what is a makerspace, how much is too much in terms of prepping your students for a particular project.
I think that's a great question, because beforehand, David and I were talking about this, and a friend had stated that when you're dealing with elementary age kids, then you need to actually prep that, because it might be a little bit too much for them. But think what's lost in the sauce. When you were a child and you were at your grandmother's house or your mom, and you're making your first batch of homemade cookies. Did they just go, well, listen, I've already made the dough, and you're just going to pour in the chocolate chips, and we're going to roll them in a ball, put them in the oven? Well, no. You put on your apron, you got your tools together, you sprayed the pan on the cookie sheet or whatever you did, and then you cracked the eggs, and you put in the flour, and
right.
Then you put all the stuff together, and you put it in the oven, and you watched it. So you actually did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And how do I know that? Because that's what I did.
Right.
And so the whole idea of getting to that point, I think that's where we are in the world, is that we need people to build the stuff that you build robots from.
Yeah.
And we need the people that go, I'm out of cardboard. How do I make more cardboard?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
if we start taking out certain processes and we go, well, we've already done this process for you. You have everything you need here, and just throwing out. So solar flare hits the planet, knocks out everything, and we're back to square one. And the kids go, okay, hey, where's my 3D printed parts? Right. And where's I need my refrigerator boxes so I can build this stuff with it. It doesn't really work that way.
True, and I do understand that that's sort of an extreme. I mean,
Oh, sure. I'm, you know me. It's not like I'm extreme or anything. But.
well, and we're not saying that as part of a lesson that you've got to start with teaching your kids how to make paper before they can make cardboard. That's not necessarily where we're going. But
Oh, we're not. No.
But by the same token, those are some of the things that not necessarily for a particular project or whatever, but at some point somebody's got to know how to make that kind of stuff. I mean, actually make the stuff.
Exactly right.
And that's one of my things is just, if I'm delivered, and I'm going to use this example similar to your cookie dough, to making cookies. If I need to build, I don't know, let's say I need to build a shed to solve a problem. I'm going to build a tiny house, as a matter of fact. Let's say a tiny house, because
I like those tiny houses.
because it's going to solve for me in my community. I see we've got homeless folks, and we don't necessarily have a shelter, or the shelter's overrun, and there's a whole lot, like a physical lot here, where there's open space, and we could build some tiny houses. What's that going to entail? And I can either go, for the sake of argument, go online, find some plans, get the list of materials that I need, go buy those materials or have them donated or whatever. All the materials show up. I have my prescribed list of how it's done, and I put it all together and I build the house. That's great, and there's nothing wrong with that, but did I make that? Or did I
Put it together, assemble it, right?
Right, and so that's kind of where I was going with that. There are some really, really cool tools, and that's not to discount or disregard things that teach whatever they're teaching, whether it's coding or the structure of programming and that kind of stuff. That's absolutely key to where things are going, no doubt about it. But I think some of what happens gets lost in terms of, look, I'm just going to throw this out there. Right now, there's a company, and I can't remember exactly who makes it, although I have a pretty good idea. And they've got a Star Wars R2-D2. And the idea is here's your box of parts, and you can make your own R2-D2. Well, you're not really making your own R2-D2. They have all the instructions, and when it's done, everybody's R2-D2, at least the outside, looks exactly like R2-D2, which I get part of that. It's supposed to be R2-D2. And I'm not knocking them, and I'm not knocking R2-D2, and I'm not. My concern is that for the instructors that simply take those pieces and parts and lay them in front of the students and say, hey, go make an R2-D2, follow this set of instructions. What good is that? What have you done? You've created child labor.
Right.
I mean, really.
But in defense, though, a lot of makerspaces, what they do is they use Google SketchUp, and they design a part in Google SketchUp and move that to the 3D printer or the laser cutter or whatever they have to use to get that done. So we're not being super negative. We're just saying that if that's all you do every time in a classroom, then you're really not helping yourself or the students out at all.
Right.
And we both can say we have seen that with our own eyes. That's the curriculum, because we've got a makerspace, or we've got an East Lab, or we've got this part, and then everything is about doing that one thing, and we're just assembling a lot of stuff, putting it together. So it's to me it's a very definite that it can happen that way.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I know we'll probably catch some flack that you guys don't know what you're talking about and all this kind of good stuff, but there's a lot to be said for dumping out a giant box of Legos and go, great, you build a robot with these Legos. Well, what's it supposed to look like? Whatever you want it to look like. It's one of those things. It's like, hey, knock this thing out.
Right, exactly. And one of the things, and I'm trying real hard to find the student that I was watching earlier, and I cannot for the life of me, and I hate feeling that unprepared. But there is a young woman who her dad, she expressed an interest in coding, programming, that type of thing when she was 6 years old. 6 years old. She actually, if you look up, oh my gosh, now I can't think of what, she created an app. She's now like 13, 14, but she created an app for Alzheimer's patients. And back then, she was when she was 6 years old, her father introduced her to Scratch. And he told her to play around and figure it out. He gave her no instructions. He didn't even give her any project ideas, didn't give anything. And and who we're talking about is Emma
Yang.
Emma Yang.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Emma Yang.
Thanks for being the producer.
Research guy.
The research guy.
Research
so,
Jeff.
So Emma Yang, when she was 6, was introduced to Scratch. So 6. Okay. So the argument about K2 being too young to handle some of this, yes, they're too young to handle some things, but we're talking about a 6-year-old girl who went into Scratch and played around in Scratch and learned Scratch to the effect that she was coming up with in her brain, she was connecting things that were completely unrelated. So she wanted to know how to connect facial recognition with artificial intelligence and connect these disparate how do you say that word? Disparate pieces and parts in order to create a particular app. And the really cool thing is, like, she already had an app when she was, I don't know, 7 or 8. So, after a year or two, she already created one particular app. And that now her main focus is taking her app, which I can't remember the name. It should be.
Is it something alive?
Timeless, timeline, time. It's something time.
I'll find
it. Timeless.
Yeah.
So she has an app now called Timeless that connects family members with Alzheimer's, with their family Alzheimer's patients, in ways that help the Alzheimer patient recognize those people, keep up with appointments. I mean, it's amazing.
That's pretty
She's currently 13 years old or 14, somewhere in there. Started when she was 6. There was no list of things.
Right, but there's the interesting thing that she had. And I'm gonna take the other side of this and stand up for our friends who tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. That's the interesting thing. So everything has to have a problem to solve.
Absolutely.
And the intrinsic need to finish a problem is something that happens to only a few people usually to that level. Hers was very intrinsic, and it was I need to get this taken care of because of a family member or something along that line. And in defense of our friends, the other part of it is that I think it is good, you're right, and you said it earlier, to go ahead and have some of the stuff built for them so that they can get used to see the simplicity of actually building something for them. So they kind of understand that this part of the process, okay, when I get to this process, this is how it's going to be. And then maybe that generates the questions that come first. Okay, I took these things and I put them together and I made an R2-D2 leg. But how do I make the leg out of styrofoam? Or how do I cast the leg myself and make it blue? Or how do I increase the size of the leg? Or, what if I want to make a leg that looks completely different than that? So maybe it just helps to generate, and maybe that those younger kids need that boost as a whole to get the old synapses firing and get to going, in that direction to get to the answer to their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you are definitely on the right track. And she also had the benefit of a couple of other things that I think is kind of where this discussion easily lends itself. And that is, one, she had a home life that strongly encouraged openness and creativity and a longing for learning. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that her parents said. Even I was reading through an interview where her parents said, this is all well and good, but we're not forcing her, and we're not even letting her take computer-only classes. She's going to go to somewhere where she can get that kind of, and we use that expression, well-rounded, but that kind of background where they have to understand how to read, how to write. Because if you can't read, you can't write, really the rest of it is not going to get you very far in life. You can be the biggest problem solver in the world, but if you can't communicate that, you're hosed. In fact, she has also taken courses in public speaking and has actually done a TED Talk as a result of her classes from the public speaking side. So that was part of that. That's part of it. Definitely having that kind of nurturing learning environment at home, but then also they specifically sought out a school that was open to the idea that this student is not going to fit the mold.
Yeah.
And that this particular student needs those base courses, those base ideals, but that also she needs to be able to reach out. She's one of these, and again, part of this could be just her intrinsic nature, and not everybody has this, but she has reached out to people that, we never would think twice about calling up and going, oh yeah, hey, by the way, do you know anything about this? And they go, well, no, but maybe I can connect you with this, or maybe we correspond, and eventually that is something that we can develop together, or we figure out together. And I think that's a big part of any of this, whatever you call it, makerspace, project learning, that kind of stuff. Real world problems that the students themselves see in their own lives, that there is no raw material. Mm-hmm. How am I going to solve this problem? Okay, well, I could do this with coding, I could do this with cardboard, I could do this with whatever those raw materials are. Well, and I'm bringing this all the way back around to the top of the show discussion, how much is too much prep? If that's the environment you want in your class, and you're listening to this now and going, oh, I would love to have those kinds of students in my class who are that wide open and can think, for themselves, but not just think for themselves, but come up with these crazy cool ideas, problems that they want to solve that may not even be solvable. And you're in that type of environment, and yet you're turning around and giving your students these prescribed kits and saying, okay, take your idea, but you can only work inside this box.
Right.
No, it's too much. There's got to be an openness and a willingness from the educator side to say, yeah, I have no idea what these kids are getting into, but I know that they're trying to solve this particular problem.
Or just take the instructions and don't show them a picture of what they have to make.
Hey, there's that too.
That's interesting. I mean, I've been in that situation before. Yeah, I'm a jazz musician. We improvise all the time, but not to that sense. Think about getting a box of parts. It makes something, but you have no picture and you have no instructions. That's a really, that's almost a tear it down, build it backwards kind of thing. Kind of interesting.
Well, and that in itself would actually make for a really cool project. I mean, it really would. Here is this box of parts, and we know what it's supposed to make. We know it's supposed to make an R2-D2 when it's all said and done. The students don't have a clue. They have a box of parts. You put this together, however you want, whatever you think, however you think this goes together, and at the end, we see what you come up with. And
so it's a three-dimensional puzzle.
And is it functional?
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that they, at the end of the day, have to make it look like the picture on the box.
Right.
I'm saying that if they're able to assemble all these pieces and parts and they actually make something absolutely new and different and unique, that I'm sure the people who made the R2-D2 kit, and we're just picking on that today for whatever reason, but and those folks go, oh my gosh, we never even thought that that's what this could have been. To me, that's the cool. And then, of course, I know you have the whole issue of it's got to tie into the standards you've got to teach. It's got to tie into the subject materials you've got to teach. But all of that is part of that. That's part of the preparation that does need to be prescribed. I mean, you've got certain things that are required of you as an educator. So you've got to do those things. So, yeah, that ties into how some of that works. I actually think that, and I don't know this, so I'm opening this up to anyone who's listening, who is an educator who's listening to us, and you may be shaking your fist, you may be raising the roof, whatever. But is it possible? Can you have a lesson that is organic and it comes about, and here's what happens? You have all these students, and these are the things that come about. And then after the fact say, oh yeah, by the way, I can tie these back to these standards. Not ahead of time, but after the fact go, oh yeah, by the way, we checked off this, and this.
That's cool.
I didn't know we were going to check those off.
It was a surprise to me.
Right, exactly. So I don't know, is that a thing? I'm asking our listeners, our viewers, is that a thing that can happen in your school? And if not, is it something that could happen if approached to the powers that be? I mean, I don't know. I would think that would be a definite thing that could happen I would love to be that. I would love for that to be a thing that could happen. So I don't know. I'm legitimately, seriously asking, is that something that could
David throws the gauntlet here on the EduTech Guys. Hit us on Twitter, twitter.com/EduTechGuys. Let us know. That's the best way to find out.
There you go. Let's have a conversation.
I agree. Really cool stuff today. I mean, that's we could probably talk an hour on that easy. And we actually know some folks who would be fun to bring in as a guest to argue with us and to push our brains a little farther on this subject. Yeah. If you have something to share with us, please let us know about it. Like I said, get us on Twitter, twitter.com/EduTechGuys. Or you can find us on Facebook. You can find us out there. Or email Jeff or David at edutechguys.com. Well, it's time for a new section of the old goods. Oh, did you want to say something?
No, you also forgive me if you're watching this on our YouTube thing. I'm still learning how the camera thing works, so there's a lot of jump cuts.
Moving our
places.
cameras. Yes. That's another thing. If you're just listening to us, always check us at youtube.com/EduTechGuys. Our shows are on there. You can watch us in glorious color HD. Beautiful people. And
okay, now you're pushing it.
I'm pushing it now. Hey, this is a new section today. Yeah. We don't have a song yet, but we're going to get with Matt Dozier and get him to sing a song for this one. But this is something we talked with Matt about, and we're going to bring it out today. We actually have another one we have in the can that we were going to run last week, but with some technical difficulties, we did not do a show last week. So we'll put this one. We'll put this one out soon. But this one is actually date specific. So this is the East Initiative update. We'll be right back from the EduTech Guys.
Hello, everyone. I'm Spencer Watson with East Initiative. Welcome to the East Update. This week, we'd like you to encounter East, and by that, we don't just mean we'd like you to meet us, though we surely would. We mean we'd like you to come say hello to our staff and to a handful of students from around the state and hear our story. There's a chance to do that Thursday, September 28th from 4:30 to 7 p.m. here at the East Initiative headquarters at 6215 Ranch Drive in West Little Rock. If you're in the neighborhood, drop by. Encounter East is what we call our annual open house, and just like the schools we work with, it's a chance at the beginning of the year to come in and see what we're all about. We welcome students enrolled in East and their parents, as well as facilitators and administrators. Indeed, anyone and everyone is invited, and there's a good reason for that. Here's James Hopper, Development Coordinator for the East Initiative.
What's really neat about this event is that it's an opportunity for civic groups or nonprofits to meet students who want to help them. Maybe the group needs a new website or a promotional video, and our students have been doing that for years. Of course, maybe they need something even more complicated, building a database or using geospatial technology to prove that your organization is having an impact and to help visualize data. And just help the nonprofit connect with the people who support them. There's thousands of opportunities out there, and this is a great place to find the connections to make that happen.
In a nutshell, that's what the East Classroom is for, making community connections. But the East Initiative, the nonprofit organization that establishes and supports those classrooms, does a lot of different things, from offering training to students to providing professional development for educators, and not just East educators. Education Unleashed, a program of the East Initiative, offers PD for any teacher of any subject at any grade level. East's Amy Bell oversees this program.
For 20 years, the East Initiative has been offering high-quality PD and training to teachers who become East facilitators. And for most of that time, we've had non-East teachers asking us to attend. Because so much of it is specific to the unique environment of East, historically we limited participation to only East facilitators. So what Education Unleashed does is to package all that good stuff that's universally applicable, like integrating technology into different curricula, getting the most out of Google Classroom, soft skill stuff like preparation and presentation, and we work that into hands-on training that any teacher can use.
You'll be hearing more about Education Unleashed in the future, but for the time being, feel free to check out www.eastinitiative.org/educationunleashed, or hey, why not come see us and find out more at Encounter East? Remember, it's Thursday, September 28th from 4:30 to 7 p.m. at 6215 Ranch Drive in Little Rock. Yes, it's a weeknight, but Don't worry about making dinner, we'll have food trucks on site, and there's a chance to see some really cool stuff like 3D printing and virtual reality up close and personal. And speaking of virtual reality, who wouldn't like to have an Oculus Rift VR headset? Well, come to Encounter East and you could have a chance to win one. We're having a raffle on site, and one lucky winner will walk away with a whole host of new worlds to explore. See, East is about connecting people, and that's really the purpose of this event. So, if you'd like to know more about what we do, or if you're just interested in meeting some really incredible young people who are making a difference in the world, and could be making a difference in your world, come see us. We'd love to connect with you. While it's not required, if you're planning to attend Encounter East, you can easily RSVP through bit.ly at bit.ly/EE17RSVP. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/EE17RSVP. If you are interested in knowing more about the EAST Initiative, from information on student projects to the professional development services we offer to educators of all kinds, please visit www.eastinitiative.org or just search for EAST Initiative on social media. If you are interested in finding out how to get an EAST classroom for a school near you, please contact eastinfo@eaststaff.org. That's EASTINFO at EASTSTAFF.org. Special thanks to James Hopper and Amy Bell of the EAST Initiative. The music you've been listening to is called Jeremiah by Jeremiah Mercier of Dover High School. Again, I'm Spencer Watson, and that's the EAST Update.
Hey, we want to thank the EAST Initiative and Spencer and all the gang for bringing us that information. You'll start to hear that every week here on the podcast. We're really glad to help them out and spread the word, because you talk about a wonderful program. That's a wonderful program.
Yeah, they're very cool.
And they've got everything you need across the board. They can help you out tremendously.
Yeah.
Check them out tomorrow. That's September 28th. They're going to have a great time. Wish I could make it, but I cannot make it up there. Yeah, that might help if you were turned up a little bit.
I was turned up. I was like, I can't hear myself.
So now, actually, guess what time it is?
I don't know.
Do you know what time it is, David?
Is it time for the Google Tip of the Week?
Google Tip of the Week. Listen, you've got to jump out there and you've got to try add-ons. There are so many wonderful add-ons in the Chrome store for Google. Every walk of life, everything you can think of. One that I've been working with lately actually allows me, inside a Google spreadsheet, to create a rule that takes any attachment on an email and put it into any directory I choose inside my Google Drive. And so what else is cool about it is the same one will actually save an email without the attachment as a PDF in any drive you specify. So let's say you had an Apple iTunes receipt that comes in, and you go, everything from Apple, and it's beautiful. You can choose labels that you already have. You can choose from or who or to or all that kind of great stuff. A time of day that it might come in, and it will take that email, turn it into a PDF, and drop it into any folder inside your Google Drive. Now, it will do the same thing with attachments. So you ask yourself, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, that's actually pretty cool. If you want to get old school with it and you tell your kids, hey, you've got between 1 o'clock and 4 with the subject line this to turn in blah, blah, blah for extra points, and you don't want to use Google Classroom or something along that line to handle it, you could do it with that. Then you open up the folder and guess what's in there. Now, if you put it a time limit, so you say, oh, you can turn it in between 3:30 and 4:30 today. And so after 4:30, any emails that come in, well, they're not going to go there, and you're going to get just that time limit. But where else it comes in really handy is for in the tech field. In what we do is I have a lot of reports emailed to me that I need to then upload to maybe a secure FTP site or something.
Right.
So what's great is on a Windows machine or a Mac, you can get Google Sync, and so that becomes an actual physical folder on your machine, which then means it has a physical address on your machine. So something's emailed to you. The Google script then takes that file, drops it into the Google folder, which is then synced to your Windows machine. It goes to a specific place, and then the script for WinSFTP then just goes, oh, I'm look here at 4 o'clock, and I take the file here and I upload it to here. So it's actually kind of the poor man's automated scripting.
Well,
so
okay, so and I'm thinking in terms of some of the stuff that you and I have talked about. So if I'm understanding this correctly, if you create notifications, right, or scripts in the background that attach to, say, your student management system, that when it runs a particular report inside the student management system, it runs a particular report, and that report is then emailed to you. So then you take the add-on that you're talking about, you get the email, it sees, oh, hey, there's this attachment. You've set up the rule that says, when I get an email with this attachment, put it over here. So now you've got a folder of all of those reports that were run, or it may be the case of, let's say, out of your student management system, you're having to generate multiple CSVs in order for those to be SFTP up to various vendors and what have you. Then, so that's basically, like you said, so you're able to automate that process.
That's exactly right.
That's freaking awesome.
And with an FTP program like Transport or even SFTP that a lot of us use, you can tell it after the fact that after you run this script, then delete the originating file, so that you don't have an overwrite that says, -1 or -2 or anything like that. So it uploads a file, and then the folder is empty again. And so the next day when it emails, it fills itself with a new folder. And there's the next thing. You never have any data just sitting out there. It's FTP'd, and then it's gone.
Right. Well, and that's exactly where I was going to go next, was with that particular feature, you don't have to worry about these files with sensitive student data just hanging out there waiting to be discovered.
Right.
They're gone. So they've been deleted. That's freaking awesome. That really is
pretty cool. I thought that might be a good Google tip of the week.
Kudos to you. My hat's off, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Well, I think it's been a great show today.
Hey, it has. Before we take off, real quickly, you want to catch up with where we're going to be October. Well, really, the next few months, we are going to be all over the freaking place. In fact, we're going to be in more places than we even realized. So it's going to be awesome. We're hitting the ground running. We've got the TCCA conference that is in Houston, Texas, and that is going to be in October
6th and 7th.
6th and 7th.
Well, 7th is that Saturday.
Right, that Saturday is when it actually is. And then we've got the Arkansas Conference of Technology, and that's
the next weekend.
The next, yes. What? No, is that the next? Yes. So there's that. We also are going to be, and the Arkansas Conference of Technology, that is in North Little Rock.
Right.
And that is the 18th through the 20th of October. And then fast forward to the end of October, and we are going to be at the Schools Without Walls Conference in beautiful downtown Hot Springs, Arkansas. And that is the 28th through the 30th. Again, that is in Hot Springs, 29th through the 30th, excuse me. I think there is something going on the 28th. I can't remember.
We're somewhere there too.
Somewhere, yeah. So something going on. So we're going to have that. And then fast forward, we've got at the end of November into December, we've got the AESA conference, which is in San Antonio. We'll be doing live conference coverage from there. And then in Orlando in January for the FETSI conference, we're going to be running around. We should be a lot smaller when we come back.
Well, we should be a lot smaller.
We won't. We like to eat. But anyhow, you can. We've got that. We'll have all of that posted online on our website, EduTechGuys.com, and you can check it out. So if you can't be there in person, you can listen to it online. And if you can be there on person, stop by the table and say hi, sit down, share your story. We'd love to talk to you.
Hey, it's been a great show.
It has.
I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs of those of participants is not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.